Hiya! Welcome! Got another New Order and Joy Division related collection update today, and as you've seen from the title, there is actually some New Order in this, quite a bit actually, and it was stuff that I wasn't planning on buying, at least until it got reissued, but I've changed my mind and I'll get onto that a little bit more as we get to those. But nonetheless, plenty to show you, mail opening to do at the very end. So let's get cracking with a purchase from Hard to Find Records in Birmingham. And this wasn't that hard to find, as I could have got it on Discogs instead. But it was a good price at HTFR, who I've used before a few times now. And it's this 12-inch single from Factory Floor. Factory Floor are, I think they're a duo, but one of the members is Gabriel or Gabe Guernsey, who has collaborated with particularly Stephen Morris quite a lot. This is called Real Love, and it's produced by Stephen Morris. I think this is just standard black vinyl. Yeah, it's just black vinyl, so not a lot to see really. I think the track itself, Real Love, is the one produced by Stephen Morris, and then whatever's on side B, which I can't really tell, oh, it's a different mix, is an Optimo Espacio mix. So that'll be a remix done by some Spanish sounding person or persons. Happy to have that. I have bought Factory Floor before. There was like a remix EP that Stephen and possibly Gillian as well were involved in, but this is one that has eluded me up until now. Factory Floor's Real Love. Right then, we move on to a site that I used for the first time to buy these next two 12-inch singles. Dead Cloud Records. They're based in Altrincham near Manchester. And this is where we get to the actual New Order stuff. And both of these actually had a 20% discount. I was alerted to it from a WhatsApp channel that I follow, that this site had got 20% off all second-hand stock. Although to me they seem to be generally a totally second-hand record seller anyway, but that's by the by. And two New Order singles they had, well one, but kind of two versions of it, that I wasn't going to get because these are from the Technique album, and I've been deliberately avoiding the 12-inch singles released from Technique because I feel that some, if not all of these, are going to get reissued eventually when the definitive edition of the Technique box set comes out, and I prefer to buy the new 12-inch reissues that have been associated with each definitive edition set from Movement right up until the recent Brotherhood re-release. But as these were such a good price with the discount, I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy these original 12 inches here, and then if and when, and I don't know if all of these will even get reissued because there's quite a few of them from New Order around this era, and to reissue them all might be a little bit overwhelming, so perhaps, you know, I've made the right choice here to get the originals. But if any of these are reissued in the future to coincide with definitive edition Technique, I'll pass these on as VCLT, no doubt, as I don't need originals and reissues, and I would rather have the newer vinyl editions, but that's me assuming that there's going to be reissues of these. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. First one from Dead Cloud in Altrincham is Fine Time. It was £5 on their website. With the 20% discount, that was down to about £4. So only £1 off, but it was only £5 in the first place. It's a 3-track 12-inch. I do have this on 7-inch and also CD single. I didn't mind getting the original 7 inches because none of those have been reissued to coincide with the definitive editions. But this one has got Fine Time. It's very, very faint text and small as well. Don't Do It, and I think Fine Line, the Fine Time remix on side B. And the other one I got from Dead Cloud was the other Fine Time 12-inch. So this one was a tenner, but with 20% off, £8. So this one does tend to go for a little bit more. Well, as you see, pretty much double what the normal Fine Time single goes for, but the remix edition, this one's got the Silk mix and the Messed Around mix on. I won't get the vinyl out for some of these, maybe I'll show you a bit in a moment. Yep, pleased to have those, they came quickly. Dead Cloud, I'd never heard of them, but really glad that they had these two, and it kind of prompted me to seek out more of the Technique era 12 inches, which I'll show you in a moment. So I went to Dig Records, not physically, I'd love to, it's up in Liverpool, a city I've always loved, but I went to their website and they had 2 New Order 12 inches that I didn't already own, and of course continuing the theme as seen from Fine Time and Dead Cloud Records, where I'm getting the Technique era 12 inches. I say both, it's a bit complicated this, but I got 2 of the Round and Round 12 inches. Here's the first one. I think this is the standard one, Fact 263. Lovely inner sleeve there, really nice bold. This seems like it's brand new, obviously it isn't. It's what, 35, 36 years old now. Bit of a look at the vinyl for this one. These were quite expensive, and I will say Dig Vinyl, they do know how to charge with their postage. You'd think that they'd find a way of combining postage really when you're ordering on their website and you put 2 things in your basket. I think previously I'd tended to just buy 1 item at a time from Dig, therefore it was like £5 postage, but it was like £5 each for this and the next one. So it was £10 postage, which made these a little bit higher than what I was comfortable with really, but I do trust Dig Vinyl. They came quick, nicely packaged, really nice condition, and I think those Fine Time 12 inches are in nice condition as well. Just the outer sleeves they're in make them look a bit cloudy and old. But that one is the first Round and Round 12 inch, and also from Dig is Round and Remix. Now this version does have 3 tracks on. The other Round and Round 12 inch, by the way, the first one is presumably a 12 inch version of the title track, and side B is Best and Marsh. Best and Marsh is also on here, although it's not credited. There you go, Round and Remix. Of course, I've got this on 7 inch and on 2 CD singles as well, one of them being a mini 3 inch CD single, which was the only one of those New Order ever released. So I've got many copies of Round and Round now. There's a third version that's got like a kind of almost plain dark blue or maybe purple sleeve, and then it just says Round and Remix or Round and Round at the top and New Order. I don't know how much it differs from this one really. I've kind of held off on it because A, it's a little bit pricey on Discogs, not outrageously so, and B, I don't know if I'm kind of doubling up too much with it really. It's very confusing because a lot of the time Factory was sort of pressing things incorrectly when things were originally coming out in the late 80s anyway. I may add the third one to my collection just because the sleeve's completely different, if nothing else. But the tracks, there might be a variation on them, to be honest. What are the mixes on here, by the way, just before I move on? The club mix and the Detroit mix. And I think both of those feature on the third 12-inch, but then also a 12-inch mix that you think would be the one on the other single, but I think I read somewhere ages ago that it's actually a different version, but it's mislabeled or something. I don't know, it's so confusing. This is another reason why it would have been easier just to kind of wait for the reissues and see what they decided to release and not release, really, because I don't think all of these are going to actually come out, but I might be wrong, and as I say, some of these may well get passed on as VCLT in the future.
I just can't help thinking what you've done to me. You put a wall of love that's hard right down in front of me. And you think you know what's going on. You keep telling me that I am wrong. I don't care about what you do, 'cause if you mess with me, I'll get rid of you. The picture you see is no portrait of me. It's too real to be shown to someone I don't know. And it's driving me wild. It makes me act like a shadow.
I think the rest of this stuff now is all from Discogs, and I've got World in Motion by England New Order. I've got this many times. I've got the 7-inch, and the 12-inch is pretty much identical. I don't think these are extended versions, to the best of my knowledge. They're just the 7-inch versions, but on a 12-inch disc. I've got the CD single, and I've also got the 2002 reissue CD single. And for the longest time, it was quite an early vinyl purchase for me when I got back into vinyl around 2019. I've got the remix 12-inch of this, so I do have now a complete set of World in Motion. Looking at the sleeve, it's a little bit tatty on the top, but this was very cheap from Discogs, about £3 for this. I think it was less than that, and then with postage it wasn't much more than a £5. Nothing really else to say about World in Motion. You all know it and you've all heard it. Also from Discogs, as is everything now that I've got to show you, is the final New Order item here. And those of you who are expert on the Technique era of New Order, basically 1988 to 1989, of course World in Motion wasn't from Technique and that was 1990, but that was still one that I needed. Then there is one 12-inch single I've not shown you. Of course, it is Run 2. This has got on it Run 2 extended version, which is a really good remix. I've always loved that version. MTO and MTO minus mix on the B. This only came out in a limited run of 20,000. I did used to own this many years ago, like back in the 90s, when my only access to a record player was occasionally being able to use my dad's, but I wasn't a vinyl collector. I had like a handful of 7-inch singles and this 12-inch, and that was about it really. But really happy that I've got this back into the collection now. Great track. Didn't do much in the chart, but then again it was a limited run. I think it was meant to come out generally as a proper single with more available, but the fact that John Denver was complaining about Run sounding a lot like Leaving on a Jet Plane, it doesn't really. I still don't know why New Order capitulated to that, because if you listen to them both, there's barely any similarities really. But anyway, that's another story for another day, maybe. Run 2 by New Order completes all the New Order I've got to show you today. Of course, there is still some New Order related stuff to go, and this one is related because it's by Marnie, and it's a 4-track EP on clear vinyl. It's issued by Le Disque de Crépuscule, and it's the Hunter remixed. So this has got 4 tracks on it, and the first track on side B is the Stephen Morris remix of the Hunter. Other tracks on here, there's the album version, the Roman Nose version, and also a track called Sugarland mixed by Mark Reeder, who is well known to be associated with New Order, Bernard Sumner in particular. Let's get this one open because it's on clear vinyl and we've only seen black vinyl so far. I looked for this on the LTM/Crepuscule website, but it's quite an old thing now. I think it was a Record Store Day issue from many years ago, and it wasn't in stock on LTM, but I was able to find it for, I want to say this was probably no more than £20 on Discogs Marketplace. Marnie, obviously the singer from Ladytron, as she's credited on the hype sticker there. I think I've heard a little bit of Ladytron over the years. Nice take on the Crepuscule logo and label there on that side, and then more of a Marnie logo centric label on that side. That is Marnie from Ladytron and the Hunter EP.
Oh, help me, please, why look away? Oh, can we stay together? 'Cause I am the hunter now. I will hear your cries, so try and rise, friend. We'll make a wish, then say goodbye. 'Cause I am the hunter now. I will hear your cries, so try and rise, friend. We'll make a wish, then say goodbye.
Now then, the next one, I wasn't going to bother. Well, I added this to my basket as a second item just because it did fit the collection, but it wasn't really essential. However, the seller messaged me soon after saying, oh, the first item that you put in your basket, we've only got it on CD. Would you like that instead, or would you like a refund on the vinyl version? And that was basically various artists. Arthur Baker was featured on the track that I wanted, and Peter Hook played on it, which is the only reason I wanted it. Explicit Beats, I think it was called. I'm not desperate for that. I may try and look for it. As you'd probably know, I don't collect any of this sort of stuff on CD. So I said to them, no, I don't want the CD, just refund me for the vinyl. But the other thing that was really kind of, I just added it because they had it. They did send me, because obviously I didn't ask for a refund on this as well. And why would I, when it's the lovely Martha Ladley, Light Years from Love? So those with the long memories will think, well, I've seen that before. You have, you've seen the 7-inch. So this has happened occasionally for me during my New Order and Joy Division collecting. A Certain Ratios Won't Stop Loving You is a good example, where I got the 7-inch and then the 12-inch, or it could have been the other way around, I can't remember. So I got this on 7-inch at some point last year, quite a few months ago, and now I have the 12-inch version. They do differ though in that it's the long version, so unlike World in Motion, that I don't think are extended at all. This one has got a long version, or the 12-inch version of Light Years from Love, and the B-side, which I think's the same B-side as the 7-inch, is the extended version of Dramas of the Human Heart. Peter Hook is credited on bass here. Nice condition sleeve. Very attractive lady there, Martha Ladley, former girlfriend of Peter Saville. Another copy of that, but I've doubled up. It's 7 and 12-inch for Martha, Light Years from Love. Penultimate item is one that I'm very unfamiliar with, don't really know the act at all. I've done a little bit of research, obviously. It was from some online record shop that had a Discogs Marketplace listing. I can't remember which, but they've got their handwritten price sticker on this, and I think that's the price I paid, plus some in postage. And this is Cardiffians, I think I'm saying that right, by Divine and Stratton. No, Divine and Staten even. So I think this is a reissue. It's on the Crepuscule label, but it's not like a modern reissue. I think this is 1993 actually, and the original album was something like 1989. Pete Hook plays bass on it. Who are Divine and Stratton? I think Ian Devine was in the band Ludus, who was signed to Factory for a time in the early 80s. And I think it's Alison Staton. She was in some band as well, I think, prior to this and maybe post this as well. It's sort of like a two-person collaboration. Just have a look at the back, see if there's anyone else familiar who played on this, because all the instrument credits are there. But no, it's only really Peter Hook I'm familiar with out of all that list there. I think it's sort of new wavy, a little bit avant-garde in places possibly, as a lot of Crepuscule or post-Factory stuff was. I'm not going to get it out of its outer sleeve here. It's only standard black vinyl. Happy to have that. Cardiffians, a celebration of Cardiff, you would assume, by Ian Devine and Alison Staton.
That I can see a mile away. You won't feel free, not in his company. You'll get to be so boring, and I'd hate to be a snoring when you finally decide to call on me. When you finally decide to call on me, and we'll come to and we'll come to That's enough is enough, that's enough is enough.
And finally, a mail opening. This is from a Discogs seller. It was classed as a UK sale, but it's like a website, and I did check the website, but I don't think you could buy anything on there. Well, you could, but this wasn't on there. This was only on their Discogs listing. And it's one where they order stuff from Japan, and then it gets sent to their depot first in Glasgow, I think, and then they send it on to me, or you. And it didn't take too long. I mean, I've ordered directly from Japan a few times, and it's never as long as you think it is. This cost, I think it was a bit under £30, that's including postage. And it is an act who I have shown on these update videos before, and I wasn't aware that Peter Hook featured on any more of their recordings, but he does. I'm talking about the Liminanas. This is their album, don't know what the year is, called Shadow People. It's not their most recent album, I know that only came out I think late last year. But I wanted this because track 1 on side 2 is The Gift, and it features Peter Hook, and it was also co-written by Peter Hook. The other Liminanas that I've shown, I've got the 7-inch single, and I'm blanking on the name of that now, Garden of Love. And then I decided I would get the 12-inch single, Garden of Love, as well. Both feature Hooky, obviously. The 12-inch also was remixed by Andrew Weatherall. But this is the first Liminanas album that I've got. So the Liminanas are kind of garage rock, a little bit psychedelic, French. And weirdly, this wasn't from France, as I say, imported from Japan, because that's what this Discogs seller seems to do. It seemed relatively difficult to get from a UK seller, from what I can tell. 2018, the copyright on this, by the way. I do want to get this open, not to look at the vinyl so much, but I think the album is doubled up on CD, and it is the album, exactly the same one on vinyl as on CD. Seems like it's a gatefold sleeve. Ah yes, there you go, just got the same album on CD, but I wanted to check that it's in there. Now I've got the record out, I'll show you, but I think it's standard black. Yes. Feels nice and weighty though, 180 gram I would say. And that concludes today's New Order and Joy Division related update video with Shadow People by the Liminanas.
I'm waiting for you. I look to the east and I say, this is a gift, a little rendezvous. I'm on my knees and I pray.
we go, that's it for that one. Thank you all for watching. I want to say special thanks to my wonderful subscribers and generous patrons. I'm not even going to say if there'll be another one of these. I did manage to get quite a lot of this stuff, not unexpectedly, but sooner than I thought I would, so that's why this next update has come around quite quick. I do keep checking, particularly Discogs, of course, which is where everything that anyone's ever recorded is listed. So I do like to check and make sure there's stuff that I haven't missed, and there always is something I've missed, or maybe something that I haven't been able to get just because of the price of it or the rarity. But nonetheless, maybe there'll be another one of these. I'm not going to say yay or nay for certain either way. And on that poetical note, I will say my goodbyes and ask that you join me again next time for my next New Order and Joy Division related video, and of course my next record and music collecting video. Cheers everyone. See ya!